They say there's only 50 years of top quality soils left. Yeah. And if we don't have other folks joining this movement towards regenerative organic agriculture, which is what we are trying to promote with the rural farmers, then we're doomed.
Hi, my name is Ashish Bhatia. I'm a professor of entrepreneurship at the NYU Stern School of Business, and I'm so pleased to have Pilar Martinez, the co-founder of Cosecha Partners, here today to talk a bit about this social enterprise.
Thank you, Ashish, for having me. It's so exciting.
Yeah. So we've known each other for maybe 15 years or so plus. Yeah. And so excited to have you to share your story and to talk about the things that you're doing in Central America. So let's kick off by first telling us about Cosecha and what it is.
Yeah, so Cosecha Partners is a social enterprise that operates in Latin America. And we work basically to help small farmers connect to international markets. But we do so with particularly small farmers who live in poverty, under $3 a day.
Wow. And what's the scale?
Basically, we have over 7,000 farmers in our network.
Wow.
Every year, we're onboarding at least 2,000 to 3,000 new farmers, and we're also operating in different parts of Central America.
So in Nicaragua, what's the size? I mean, you're talking about 7,000 farmers. That seems like a lot for a place I'm assuming is not too big.
Yeah, I mean, definitely first of all, we're one of the few social enterprise operating in that space. They're mostly working with less than 1,000 farmers. But because our model is a little bit more unique and more holistic in our approach, we're able to scale in a different method than maybe others who are operating there.
And so what's your method? What's the secret sauce? How are you scaling at such size?
I think to understand how we're scaling, I think we have to understand the problem.
Okay, yeah, that's perfect. I love to start with the problem, right? In design thinking, in my classroom, we always focus on, students are so eager to jump to solutions. We got to slow down. What's the problem we're trying to solve? So,
right.
Yeah, and please.
So the problem is we see, and I'm going to start with some facts as a development practitioner. I need to also start with why we're doing this, and then the solution, which is related to your question on scale and how we scale this. So the problem first is that we have an opportunity where at least 70% of the world's farmers are small farmers. So we know that they are playing an important role in the food chain. However, they lack knowledge on how to grow organic and in a regenerative way that is healthy for our environment. We also know that less than 2% of the world food production is organic. And
wow,
why is this important?
That's really small.
So small farmers play a huge role in combating climate change. And we understand that for small farmers who live under $3 a day, our model, now that I told you kind of what's the context and the opportunity, because also the other thing I want to mention is 40% of the world's land has been degraded by bad agricultural practices. So we know there's an issue in our food systems. And this is where our active participants are the small farmers. They have land, they have their asset, it's a key asset. But our model, which is integral, we look at how do you provide that know-how, that knowledge, elevate their understanding to know how to grow organic. We've forgotten how to grow organic.
Wow.
It's so much easier to just put pesticides and chemicals in our lands.
Wow. So just to kind of recap on the problems here, so we have like very dispersed set of farmers that are, 70% are small scale farmers.
Yeah.
Not lacking the knowledge on sustainability, regenerative agriculture, and so a big part of what you're doing is know-how.
Correct. So know-how, and now dig deeper in terms of how we do that know-how, but just basically, so we provide the know-how, but we provide access to certifications, which is very expensive. You spend years working on transitioning your farm to organic. And you need to do a whole inspection. It's costly. It's a whole lot of work.
Is that just like paperwork? Is this like because of to get certified, or is this more like you actually have to change the land?
There's definitely paperwork.
Okay.
But there's also a lot of doing. Like basically, there's management practices at the farm that you have to implement. You can't have any chemical inputs in certain ways. Like there's just so many different aspects. But I don't want to bore you with the detail there.
Well, no, it's good to know that you're operating in those details, and that those details, I mean, I care about where my food comes from and that it's healthy. So I'm glad that people are out there doing this great work to make our food chain better.
Yeah. So I said definitely the know-how, the access to certifications that are expensive. There's different that we've support our farmers from basically their certification for organic. There's regenerative organic, which is another step further from organic as well. Small farmer certification, and that allows them to get a better price in international markets, right? It's more work. All of this requires more work. So when people are buying their food in the groceries, there's a reason why it's a little bit more expensive, right? There's a lot of accountability that goes behind it. And then also access to finance. And then just basically finding the clients that are basically willing to pay for this. And so that's how we operate in those 4 critical pillars. But what we do, which is unique and innovative, is that we're very data and technology driven.
Oh, okay. So we're gonna have to dive into that a bit. And how does the technology and data work? So most people, when they think of agriculture, they're not thinking about technology. I know people are watching these YouTube videos of these cool these robots that can laser shoot weeds or fertilize lawns real fast. But I think you're talking about something else. I know you're talking about something else. So tell us more about that.
Correct. So first, we have technology as it relates to offering transparency in terms of the pricing that is paid throughout the value chain for our customers through blockchain technology. So we know what was a final price paid to the farmer at farm gate. We can give that to our international customers. That's one. Second, because we're a social enterprise, the social part is very important. Every time we onboard new farmers, we measure as a baseline, what is that small farmer's income in that given year? How many members are in their household? How many how many mouths does that farmer need to feed, right? And so that gives you a more holistic approach. Okay, if that farmer got paid X amount for buying coffee and he made X amount of money in the year by selling X amount of product, and this is how much he got paid, that gives us a sense, are we actually moving the needle from one year to the other? So measuring that data when we send
and when you say moving the needle, you're talking about a social impact needle. You're talking about raising incomes.
Poverty alleviation. Are we really alleviating poverty? Cosecha Partners is a 2-pronged sort of enterprise that works on combating climate change, and we do that through regenerative organic agriculture, promoting that. And then second, we're also alleviating poverty, and we do that by ensuring that these small rural farmers who are in the last mile can connect to these international markets and can improve their income. So we can't just say that without having the data to back it up that we're actually improving. And so for us, when we onboard a new farmer, we need to know their baseline income.
And what's the data look like?
So basically we've worked across different products and value chains. We've worked in chia, for instance, we've seen an improvement of up to 50% of their income in a given season. And then we've seen them investing that money to improve their household, their houses, or either it is for a motorcycle that they need to be able to transport themselves more easily in a place where it's very remote, or also that we are seeing them reinvesting that money to buy more land and increase their production levels.
Wow, that's fantastic. All right, so we got 2 parts of this technology chain. It sounded like there's a couple others.
Yeah, and then the other one is overall, we really care about how many of these farmers are basically women versus men. How many trainings do we need to really offer in the year? What kind of technical assistance do we need to offer at their actual farm? And so we have these really cool dashboards that allow us to see our ROI every year. So for us, we map so many different indicators in the year that we really care about to really share how we are actually making an impact in these rural communities.
And so what's the factor there? Is there a gender dynamic that's important, or
Yes,
family dynamic?
Yeah, we definitely, for instance, we still are seeing it's mainly predominant male participating in our programs, but we are making a huge push. One of our crops that we're actually pioneering in Nicaragua is macadamia.
Oh.
And so we give 50 macadamia trees to coffee farmers. And that's because coffee farmers are highly dependent only on coffee as a source of income. But as we know, coffee prices is very volatile in international markets. And so when the price is very low and they're not making enough money, with the trees that we're handing out for free, they're going to be able to then have an alternative source of income. The catch is that the production of the macadamia trees take 60 years to produce. But there's a whole opportunity to also offer that as a carbon offsetting, because those macadamia trees, they live for 60 years and they can sequester a lot of carbon from the environment.
Wow. But I don't get, why would you give away these macadamia trees? Like that seems just like a net loss. I mean, is that entirely social impact focus? Is that part of like more charitable aspect of the business?
It's basically, we can't charge them a fee, right? Their priority is how do they feed their children today? However, they are part of our program and they need to sign a contract. They cannot chop that tree. They need to wait 20 years. And in year 6, when that tree starts to produce macadamia, they need to sell to us. And that's how we're going to recoup the investment.
Oh, wow.
So it's a long-term investment.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, this is like private equity on the social enterprise side, right? With private equity investments, they're able to do things that folks in the public markets can't do because they have that long time horizon. And what I'm hearing with this macadamia initiative, you're doing the same thing. We're not here in the short run. We're here for 6 years. We're here for 20 years. We're even thinking about 60 years of carbon emissions.
Well, this is patient capital, right? It's,
I love it.
And you've heard of, if some of your viewers have read Jacqueline Novograd's book on the blue sweater, it's patient capital. Like when you really want to work with populations on who are operating in the base of the pyramid, you got to be a little creative in how you work with them, right?
So we were talking about how at the base of the pyramid you have to be more creative. So this technology is really critical.
For sure. And essentially one thing that's amazing in our society nowadays is that the power of smartphones. And you'd be impressed, but in Nicaragua there's more smartphones than people.
Yeah.
And we have seen that even in rural last mile communities, there are smartphones. At least 60% of our network of small farmers have smartphones. So we're like, okay, let's do something with this. This is power, right? Information is power. So how can we get to them like on demand, when in the sense of like kind of the same model that you've seen with other online learning apps, but doing it in a way that really fulfills their kind of work style. They're in the morning most of the time in the fields and all that, and now it's just promoting, and it's what we've been working on here. You just download this app. You don't need internet. You just need internet to download the app, and then you have access to it's kind of the Coursera.
Oh, so the content's all offline on your phone.
Yeah, you just need to register, download all the information, and we have it from like if you want to learn how to grow cacao, or you want to learn how to grow macadamia or coffee. And those are the 3 crops that we're promoting through regenerative organic approach. And it's very interactive. So we have a series from audio, we have video, we have gamification, we have quick questionnaires and tests, and it's also friendly.
And so how many users you got on this app?
So it's growing.
Okay, we're just starting out. That's fine.
Like 30% are there right now.
30% of your 7,000 farmers? That's great. That's fantastic.
It's basically that we've become a sort of like a tech company now. It's like all company, if you want to be innovative and relevant, you have to figure out your tech component.
Well, if you're trying to deal with a user base that's 7,000 people across such a diverse, large span, it makes sense that you're going to need to leverage technology.
Correct.
It's just really incredible because I think when people think about why tech matters and how to get involved in the tech space, you know, everybody thinks of Uber and Airbnb and like, oh, these are the exciting types of things. But agriculture is exciting, right? And now you're also able to have a social impact.
Yeah, I mean, agriculture is important. We depend on food to live, and what we put in our bodies matter.
Yeah.
We don't want chemical. I mean, you see the spike of cancer and everything else. I mean, we wonder why. Well, they're putting glyphosate, which is a really harsh chemical, on wheat and other crops in our food systems, and that's depleting the quality of soils. They say there's only 50 years of top quality soils left. Yeah. And if we don't have other folks joining this movement towards regenerative organic agriculture, which is what we are trying to promote with the rural farmers, then we're doomed.
Yeah. All right. Well, so it's clear that you're really passionate about this. What motivates you, and how did you decide to get involved in this this way?
So I started basically studying economics in school. I went to Boston, and then I ended up working in Washington, D.C. for international organizations. And one cool organization that I love, and the founder is amazing, some of you might have heard of here at NYU, is Bill Drayton Ashoka. Yeah,
Ashoka is we're very well known in the kind of social impact space.
Correct. And I mean, he was the one who coined the term social entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. And so I got the chance for over 4 years to work there and look at how are businesses a force of change, and how can you work with Fortune 500 companies and help them produce products and services to really cater to those to the marginalized consumers? Because economies that want to grow, you know, or companies that want to grow, you also need to look at how do you develop products and services for that market that is huge and growing, like in India but basically their purchasing power is different. So.
Yeah. One question I always like to ask dynamic entrepreneurs like yourself is, what advice do you have to someone that's listening to this and is kind of on the fence, you know, not sure if they can take that kind of step towards doing something on their own, creating a venture or social enterprise? What advice would you have for them?
I think that listen to your gut and listen what brings you joy. Life can be long, but it can be short. And if you want to have a fulfilling and happy life, follow your heart and follow. I think that there's so many issues in our society. And it was interesting, I was reading this article from the New York Times, and they were saying that this alpha generation, they're like, oh, screw social impact work. I'd rather just they care. You see that they care, but they care more about making the money and, you know, working more traditional careers, which is fine. You can grow and you can learn, but you know what? Solving major issues in our society, from food crisis to healthcare, whatever, they require people, smart people, to also get involved. Otherwise, we're not moving the needle. And if you want to leave a better society to future generations, then this is their time.
Wow, that's great. I really like that emphasis on the problems that, particularly social impact, environmental sustainability, these are really challenging problems to deal with. And so, yeah, we need the smartest people working on those problems.
And you need persistence, because it's hard. It's the hardest job they're gonna get. You know, really trying to solve world issues that are broad and complex. It requires resilience, but you gotta be passionate, and you just have to go for it.
So what gives you your resilience? How did you stay passionate and resilient in the face of probably a number of challenges?
You know, it's because the path less taken is sometimes the more exciting and the most fulfilling. And for some reason, I'm not the one person who just typically follows the path most taken. I take the least taken. Yeah. I don't know, it's what makes me excited about waking up every day and knowing that I'm making a difference in this world somehow.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for having this chat with me. I look forward to rooting you on in all the work that you're doing. We will talk again soon.
Thank you, Ashish. Excited to be here.
All right.
Thanks to everybody.